Welcome back to F1 Report, everyone. It's race week once again, and we are immediately moving on from Portimao straight to Imola in Italy, a classic track with plenty of F1 history. I am very much looking forward to this one. Imola is a 2-day event, meaning that there's no practice on Friday, but we do get a longer session on Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Many fans will remember Imola being a staple of the calendar, with it being the San Marino Grand Prix between 1981 and 2006. That might seem a bit confusing to those uninitiated, as Imola is quite clearly in Italy, and for that we can thank politics, of course. Monza is, of course, the Italian Grand Prix, and Imola wasn't really going to change that, so the San Marino Grand Prix was a good compromise. Imola is also infamous as the unfortunate race weekend in 1994 that claimed the lives of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna. Of course, this track has been modified, as safety is much more paramount in F1 since those incidents, so there's nothing really to worry about, but it is always something that's hung over Imola since 1994, as it does with every track where the worst should happen. Now back to the present, the track details for this one could be summarised as fast. Plenty of straights and fast corners for these new generation F1 cars to get stuck into. The AlphaTauris actually had their testing session here this season, and both drivers said it was fast and thrilling. There's just one DRS zone at the circuit, and it's down the start-finish straight as usual, straight after the kink that is turn 19, running through the other kink that is turn 1, and down into turn 2. The length of the circuit is a tiny bit under 5 kilometers, and we'll be running for 63 laps this weekend. The weather for this race is dry both days. I don't know about you, but after being teased about the potential wet races the last 2 times out, it's a bit of a shame, but there we go. Pirelli have chosen the C2, C3 and C4 tyres for this race. Those are the middle of the range compounds. This track isn't too hard on the tyres, but Pirelli want to offer options, as this generation of car has never been around the circuit before. Now, this is the usual section where I cover the results from the last time we were at this race. But that was back in 2006, so no relevance here at all, but I think it's always fun to look back at these historic events, so I'm going to do it anyway. And there is one driver still in the field who was racing back then as well, so I'll let you take a guess before I get started. Let me know in the comments if you got it right. So, in first we had Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, of course, Fernando Alonso in his Renault in second, and rounding out the podium was Juan Pablo Montoya in the McLaren. In fourth we had Felipe Massa in the other Ferrari, and fifth is that man still on the grid with us today. Of course, it's the one with the more Grand Prix starts than any other. It's Kimi Raikkonen. Back then he was driving for McLaren. In sixth we had Mark Webber in the Williams, seventh was Jenson Button in the Honda, and rounding out the points back then in 8th was Giancarlo Fisichella in the other Renault. 9th was Ralf Schumacher in the Toyota, 10th Rubens Barrichello in the other Honda, 11th was Nico Rosberg in the Williams, 12th was Gilles Villeneuve in the BMW Sauber. He was immediately followed by his teammate Nick Heidfeld, and 14th was Vitantonio Liuzzi in the Toro Rosso, also followed by his teammate Scott Speed, and the final runner was Thiago Monteiro in MF1 in 16th. Our DNFs that day were David Coulthard in the Red Bull and his teammate Christian Klein, Takuma Sato and his teammate Yuri Ide in the Super Aguris, Jarno Trulli in his Toyota, and Christian Albers in the other MF1. So that's your lot from 2006. Like I said, no real relevance at all, but I always love taking a look at those classic races, so I figured I'd pass that on. What will be more relevant though is the race results from last weekend in Portugal. If you want to catch that race, feel free to check out my race review, but I'll be quickly going over the finishing positions now, so let's take a look. In first we had our new record holder for race wins, Lewis Hamilton, quickly followed by his teammate Valtteri Bottas in second, and rounding out our top 3 was of course Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc took an impressive 4th, likewise for Pierre Gasly in 5th, Carlos Sainz took 6th, with Sergio Perez in 7th, Esteban Ocon in 8th, Daniel Ricciardo in 9th, and Sebastian Vettel rounding out the top 10. Kimi Raikkonen came in 11th, Alex Albon in 12th, Lando Norris in 13th, George Russell 14th, Antonio Giovinazzi in 15th, and Kevin Magnussen in 16th. 17th was Romain Grosjean, and 18th was Nicholas Latifi. Our final runner in 19th was Daniel Kvyat. We only had one DNF last time out, and it was Lance Stroll. So, how did that result shape the championship coming into this race? Well, our top three are still our top three. Hamilton is first on 256 points, Bottas in second on 179, and Verstappen on 162. Ricciardo retains his fourth place with 80 points, but Leclerc shoots up the leaderboard into fifth with 75 points. Perez also blasts up the table on 74 points. Norris and Albon are the guys sliding down, both of them scoring 0 points last time out. They are still on 65 and 64 respectively. They now have Gasly and hot pursuit on their tails in 9th place with 63 points, and Sainz joining the party in 10th on 59 points. It's still incredibly tight and all to play for. In the constructors, it's very much the same, with Mercedes still way out in front in 435 points. Red Bull in second with 226 points, and Racing Point still hanging on to third with 126 points. But right behind them is McLaren with 124 points, and right behind them still is Renault on 120 points. Ever so tight between those three. Ferrari are still in sixth with 93 points, keeping AlphaTauri at bay with 77 points. And then we have that big gap back to Alfa Romeo in 8th with 5 points, Aston 9th with 3 points, and Williams bringing up the rear with 0 points. That's the table sorted, so let's talk news. Media Day is a little different this week. It's typically on Thursday at a normal race weekend, but because of our shortened race week this week, Media Day will now be on Friday. But never fear, we've still got plenty of news to talk about, so let's get into it. The big news of the week is that Pierre Gasly has been signed to AlphaTauri for next season. I think everybody knew he was gonna be on the grid next season, it was just a question of where. This move rules him out of that Red Bull seat for next year, but we know from last week's news that Red Bull still have names in their little black book to contact should Albon not hold up his end of the bargain. A question that can be raised is who will be partnering Gasly at AlphaTauri next season. It seems telling that Kvyat was not announced at the same time, so are his days numbered? In another bit of news, we also had the provisional schedule for next season released, which includes a surprising addition of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for the first time. I call this a surprise as Saudi Arabia are already widely criticised for sports washing their human rights record, so for F1 to get on board seems a little obvious that it's a cash grab by the sport, honestly. However, saying that, we still have Bahrain, don't we? So maybe I shouldn't be surprised. The rest of the schedule is what we should have had this year, if not for COVID, so fingers crossed we can get back to that as long as we can do it safely. And one final piece of news is that the Sauber Alfa Romeo relationship will continue for 2021. For context, this Alfa Romeo team is actually the classic independent team Sauber in all but name. They just currently have a deal together which brings the Alfa Romeo name and branding to the sport, and the news that the relationship is continuing, so both groups must be happy right now. That's the news for this week, so that just leaves my driver and team to watch for the weekend. For driver, I'm going to go with something a little bit different, I think. I'm going to pick Alex Albon, and the reason why I'm picking Alex Albon is because Red Bull have given him only a few races left to cement his seat for next season. So I really want to watch him. Either he is going to improve dramatically so that he can keep his seat, or he is going to disappoint and we'll know that Red Bull need a new driver next season. So either way, he's going to be a good one to watch this time out. For the team to watch, it has to be one of those teams fighting for third place, right? I like the look of Renault for this track. They didn't do great last time out, but I think the high-speed tracks suit them a little better, so I expect them to improve this time out. I want to watch them do that, fingers crossed. Are you guys excited to be racing at Imola again? Have you got any predictions for the race? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.